A biblical perspective on life, culture, and current events. This is 2020 on Vision.
If you've been around a while, you'll remember the original Jesus film. And for lots of believers, it needs no introduction. It was the most translated film of all time, translated into more than 2,000 languages. And there have been more than 600 million recorded decisions to follow Christ. And over 40 years, it's been seen by more than 8 billion people. And now there is eager anticipation of the next level of the Jesus film, adapted for new technology formats. Power to Change in Australia is part of the future developments due next year. But our privilege to welcome Geoff Peters. Geoff's leading the global marketing for the new film, and Young Go is the Australian project director. First of all, welcome to you, Geoff.
Thank you so much, Neil. Great to be with you today.
And to you, Young.
Thanks, Neil. Yeah, great to be here.
Well, because it's based on biblical dialogue, it's got such a broad appeal. Geoff, give us your insights here into the appeal of this film. What's made it so popular over 40 years and what's to be anticipated?
I think, Neil, the most important piece around answering that question is the gospel centricity of the original film. And of course, that carries through with this new project as well. There's nothing extra, nothing added. It's straight biblical account. The large majority from the Gospel of Luke. There's no extra words or ideas brought in. And so that has allowed it to be front and center for discipleship and for evangelism across a wide variety of denominations and ministries and other uses all around the world for quite some time.
Is it this fact that there isn't the allowance for a lot of artistic license in the formation of a Jesus film that's made this one so acceptable across all those denominations and has become the vehicle for reaching so many lives around the world?
I do think that's a key part of it. I think anytime you add additional context or additional dialogue, you run the risk of not being in alignment with what one denomination or one church or one person's ideology is. But when you stick straight to gospel, these are the red letter words, so to speak, that Christ speaks, then you keep center pointed on exactly what everyone expects the message should be.
And when we think of a new sort of a film, some people will say, well, just stick with the original if it's so successful. Some might be saying, why do we need something new in a format that is animated? Give us some insight here into the technological platforms that people are going to have access to this particular new film.
Yeah, Neil, there's a few big variables for us in why it's time to make a reimagined version of the original Jesus film, this time in an animated format. The first and foremost thing that we're learning is just from the global population, we're looking at an incredibly young population. The continent of Africa alone has an average age that is stretching for some countries in Africa, average ages of 14, 15, 16. So we're seeing a much younger demographic globally. And at the same time, we're also recognizing that animation as an art form speaks across generations in a way that other filmmaking and other storytelling mechanisms haven't in the past, stretching from young to old. Everyone seems to love animation to some degree.
And it creates all sorts of new opportunities for virtual reality and augmented reality, all of these new technological advances, and bringing those to the Jesus film.
Absolutely. In this case, we have Disney and DreamWorks and Pixar animators, people with that sort of credibility under their belt, working alongside biblical scholars and archaeologists, people who were literally at the dig sites, who could say, no, that's not how the road looked when we dug it up. The stones were shaped differently. But having these people as a team working together, they've actually been able to create a three-dimensional Capernaum, a three-dimensional Via Dolorosa. And that will give our audiences the opportunity to not just watch a film, but to actually experience the gospel in a way never before possible through the beauty of technologies like VR and AR as well.
Young Go, you are the Australian project director. How are Aussies going to receive this new technologically advanced animated version of the Jesus film? What are you feeling about this?
Well, thanks, Neil. I mean, I feel so privileged to be involved in this again because in the 90s, I was involved in a similar program, but we were distributing the Jesus video. And again, when we've had our events and with the people we've talked to, we've had a tremendous reaction to animation. As Geoff has said, it really has this appeal and really captures people of all ages, really. And I think we're going to have a tremendous response here. We've had a tremendous response from the people I've spoken to.
Geoff, the film, it's going to be animated, but it's been filmed in something like 200 locations around Israel. So no doubt what is filmed is adapted into an animated form. Is that the way it works?
Ultimately, in this case, we are starting from zero in terms of the visuals and actually building a three-dimensional Jerusalem, a three-dimensional Capernaum. These different locations based on the archaeological record and based on the biblical accounts so that we can build something that ultimately has never been done before. We have to realize even the original film, filmed on location, you're filmed on top of ruins that are 2,000 plus years old. It didn't really look that way when they filmed it, even on location. So this gives us the opportunity to have people experience many of these biblical contexts in a way never before possible.
Geoff, you're in Australia and you're wanting to meet Australian movers and shakers because the timing of this, perhaps late 2025, maybe early 2026, this is going to be an important time, meeting with church leaders, people who are interested in reaching the next generation. Young, this has been something of the focus. You've begun to connect in Brisbane yesterday. You're going to be meeting with another group of people in Sydney tonight. How important is it for people to capture the excitement of what can come with this film?
Thanks, Neil. I think this is really exciting. So tonight we'll be at Wesley Centre, and then tomorrow we'll be in Melbourne, and then on Friday we'll be in Perth. And we've had a tremendous response. We've had over 500 across these 4 locations express an interest, which is just phenomenal. Now, if I can just sort of lay it out, so we're really thankful that God has given us time to really make the most of this opportunity. So we're thinking of it in terms of 3 Junes. This June, we're going out to key leaders. The following June, we're hoping to have town halls in more cities and have more leaders impacted. And then in the following June 2026, is when we intend to have advanced pre-screenings in time for its release in Christmas 2026.
Now, the original film has been used in Australia for major evangelistic outreach. At one point there, the distribution to something like 750,000 homes. And I'm pretty sure the format was a DVD at that time. There's going to be all sorts of extra opportunities. With this, it's going to be on digital formats. This is going to be something that churches will be able to use for their own evangelistic outreach.
Exactly. And, we're so excited because in 59 and 67, you remember Billy Graham came to Australia and had such an impact. So many Christian leaders today can point to that time as when they came to know Christ. But this time, instead of a preacher filling a few stadiums, we are envisioning the 500 cinema locations as those places where outreach is going to take place. 2,000 screens, 10,000 churches rallying together to fill those cinemas. And why cinema? Because it's neutral ground. It's so much easier to invite your friends to cinemas. And we want the name of Jesus to be on billboards. We want Jesus out there.
So here we are, a little in advance. We're talking about a preview of what is going to be the most incredible opportunity to be able to reach out to your community, a 500 cinema release, an animated version that's going to be appropriate in a whole lot of different formats. Is there a way that Aussies can get involved and become stakeholders in what's happening with this? Is there a sense in which, is there a fundraising program going on? Geoff, what, from your global point of view, what's happening with the need for people to become involved?
Right now, we're at this early stage where the entire rally that we're doing right now, the entire momentum that is building is around ministry leaders locally who are seeing the opportunity to mobilize the existing body of Christ here in Australia to come around what's possible. What does God want to do through this? It's not just about once the film comes out and using it as a discipleship or evangelism tool, but it's about the time between now and then and the time of that film release to actually mobilize. And so what people can do right now is go to jesus.film/au, jesus.film/au, and register their interest. Say, I want to be connected. I'd like to know more. I'd love my ministry to be connected. I'd love for us to be a part of this in my own local city, in my own local town. That's the type of interest we're trying to build right now. So once again, that website, jesus.film/au.
And the build-up time, this will be important too, because something of an anticipation builds. And the expectations are going to be high. And so delivering the product is going to be where your team is going to be at there, Geoff. So tonight you're in Sydney, meeting at the Wesley Centre in Pitt Street in Sydney. Tomorrow night in Melbourne at Crossway Baptist Church. And on Friday in Perth at the Subiaco Church. And for that website, for listeners to get a hold of those details and how you can become a stakeholder and become involved in this major project, jesus.film/au. jesus.film/au. Geoff Peters, leading the global marketing for the new film. Geoff, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Neil.
And Young Go, the Australian project director. Young, thanks so much for your update.
Thanks, Neil.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.